Hi, and welcome to week 8. This week we're going to talk about font pairings and how many font choices you should have in a design. So let's check out some of these sites. I do have a lot listed here. When it comes to font pairings, a lot of these sites are going to say the same things, but they kind of say it in a different way, and they all bring one additional thing to think about. Font pairings are difficult, right? Because you're taking generally a headline and then your body text or, maybe a slogan and you're heading something and you're trying to add different styles that work well together. It's not like you have to use this and this. The options are wide open and we have so many different font choices now that it only gets harder to find what pairs well together. You want to find something that plays with each other well. It complements each other. Contrasting, you can have some issues. If they're too similar, you can have some issues. So you have to find that kind of middle ground balance point. So I have 4 sites on fonts that pair well together. How do we pair them together? It is probably the first and often most difficult task you'll need to do. Pairing typefaces or fonts takes everything that we've learned so far in this class and adds to it, right? Because we need to categorize our typefaces first to think what could go well together. So you pick 2 styles that go together. Then you want to look at some of those vocab words that we've talked about to see what in particular each font has that makes it unique, and do those fit together? This kind of goes further over looking at the letter forms. It's interesting that they give you a nice chart. I would highly recommend you look through this and read it in its entirety. It is very, very beneficial. But I will let you do that. Then, a guide to font combinations. When you're looking at these sites and reading what they say, think if you agree with it. Think what you think works well together. They might say one thing and look at it and say, you know what, I do think that works well together, but why? Right? What makes this look good with this? Okay? So, look, we've got pretty similar Helvetica and Gill Sans here, but we can see it looks a little bit better when it's a little bit bolder. That also depends on what the purpose of your font pairing is. If you're trying to create a very contrasting design, then maybe this would work. But in general, this is what works better. So you have to think of what you're trying to say in your design and how you want to say it, and then find the pairings that work best for it. Okay, take a look at X height, all of our different vocabulary. Mood, like I was just talking about, decoration, color, etc. 10 beautiful font combinations for all your design needs. Complement or contrast. Keep it in the family. Now, when you're pairing in the same family, this is a good example for Evnier. There's heavy, medium, light, next, bold, condensed, Roman, oblique, which is really great when you have all the different styles to work with. And then you can see too, do you think keeping it in the family works successfully? Or should you find another, if Roman worked well, what's a similar font here that could actually complement better? Or is it best to stay in the family? I like this one. It's kind of dealing with a brand. So this is the order that they go for. Determine your brand. Your brand could also be what your advertisement is trying to say, what your design is trying to say, the mood, the feeling of your what you're trying to sell or show an audience. Then brainstorm fonts that convey your brand. So what I like to do is, and we'll get to this because we'll be doing a little branding later in the term, but write out words that describe your company, and company is in quotes, describe your idea. So are you elegant? Are you hardworking? Are you bold? Are you new? Are you creative? All these things. So think about those words and then find fonts that really kind of show that off. Then choose your body font, where most of your text will be, by legibility. and then we'll add an additional font to fill out another aspect of the brand. Okay? So cool things to go through. Then we have some inspiration for font pairings, 36 perfect font pairings. And again, look at them and think, do I like that? Do I not? What do you think this is trying to say? How would I use that in an advertisement? Okay, and this one shows you examples in action. Then we have a non-designer's guide, which is kind of interesting to look at. So if you're not as educated in design as we are, what would you be looking for? And then I like to take that and take it to a new level. And then there's this generator. You can look at font pairings and see what you think. Here are the font choices. Okay. Now, we're talking about all of these font choices and how you can sell your brand and what goes well together, and let's do this for the headline, this for the byline, this for the body text. You do not want to go crazy with your font choices. A general rule is limit it to under 3. Okay? Most of the time 2 is enough to tell your story. Sometimes you need 3. There are the exceptions where you may need to use more than 3, but it's getting to be too crazy. Things won't be as cohesive. You'll be distracted by all of the different font choices instead of reading or looking at the actual design. So in these, a lot of these 3 sites talk about more than just mixing fonts and how many, but you'll see that all of these talk about the rule of 3 fonts. So legibility is king, we talked about that. Establish hierarchy, very important, especially when you're mixing 2 font choices together. Keep copy brief when possible. Consider spacing and length. Beware of widows. Treat text like art. Try to not center align often. Make sure your background doesn't compete. This is very important when we're using typography because typography is one of the harder things to layer. Don't use all caps. Think about what your fonts communicate. Do not use more than 3 fonts at a time. Typefaces bring a lot to the table, their own style, spacing, and personalities. Fonts can reflect your brand's personality too, so avoid distracting and overwhelming your design by limiting your fonts to more than 3. Think about your branding, legibility, serif versus sans serif, your font family. I think these sites are just good recaps as well. Avoid using more than 2 to 3 fonts. It's kind of nice, you know, we're at midterm time, and to be able to see all that we've talked about in the first, 7 weeks-ish, and how that all can relate and be used when we're doing this next step and taking it to the next level. Okay. Then I have a discussion board here. I want you to look around you and find something that has a font pairing. It can be a product, a decorative item, an informative piece, anything. I just want you to kind of find something that's actually you can pick up would be preferable. What kind of fonts did they pair together? So using your knowledge, discuss if it's serif, sans serif, what classification, does it look like a bold or italic? Are they similar or contrasting? Is it sans serif or serif? Do you think the hierarchy is successful? What word did you see first? So that's number 1. Number 2, post your most successful piece from the Gestalt assignment. Don't tell what it is. So I only need to see one of the artboards or one of the PDFs, but you'll just post that under your findings. Do Wednesday. And then do Sunday, you'll respond to a minimum of 2 of your classmates. Explain what law you see that they posted and why, and then discuss what you think of the font pairing that they showed as well. Like, oh, I see that they're using a bold font here with a sans serif here. I think maybe if we used a serif font here but lowered the size, it could be more effective. And then your assignment for this week. You're going to create 4 music posters for a music festival. They will all be the same basic design. So come up with your design first. You may include graphics, but it isn't needed. The main thing I want is typography. Maybe you want to create a pattern in the background. Maybe you want to create some lines, something to bring the design all together. That is completely fine, but you're not going to change that design too much between the 4 posters. So you can kind of set up your 4 artboards, get the main design that you want, and then copy and paste it so it's all on all 4 artboards. Then you're going to pick 4 of the following categories: heavy metal or rock, country concert, symphony orchestra, Broadway musical, techno EDM, rap, indie folk, punk rock. If there's another genre of music that you would like to do, that's fine. Just let me know what it is. But you'll pick 4 of these. Your text is going to be the musical experience, Ulysses Ballroom, Chicago, Illinois, June 27, 2021, 6:30 p.m., $35 tickets, and then welcome to our 3rd annual music festival. Come enjoy a night of, and then whatever type of music you picked, so rap music, and celebrate our community. This is an outdoor music festival that will go on rain or shine. You can decide if beyond this, if there's more text that you feel you need to bring in an audience. Maybe you want to include a website or something like that. You can make up whatever other text you want, but again, it must match in all 4 pieces. So if you put, I don't know, the website, just make sure the website is on all 4. Think about your font choices. The font choices are going to change. That is the one thing that you are allowed to change, and it is to try to fit the style of music that you picked. So you're going to have the same hierarchy. Maybe if the musical experience is bold and on the top, it's going to be bold and on the top in all 4. But I'm going to pick a different font choice for a symphony orchestra than I would a heavy metal. Now maybe for the musical experience, you really pick a decorative font that's still easily read. It's, you don't want to affect our legibility at all, but maybe that's a more fun, playful font. Then you have to find a nice complementary font to work for the rest. Okay, now all font choices can be different between the 4. The hierarchy should remain the same. Now the hierarchy, if you have a bold font for heavy metal, maybe you won't be able to find a bold font for symphony. That's okay, but it'll still follow. If the musical experience is the top of your hierarchy, that should be the top in all 4. Final pieces should be 11 by 17 CMYK. These would technically be something to print. You may use 4 artboards in one file or submit 4 files. It's up to you, whichever you prefer to do. Just know that you can copy and paste from one to the other and then adjust. It sometimes is nice too to use your 4 artboards to see how your 4 posters contrast each other. Not that they need to fit together in any way, shape, or form, just how you're using the fonts in each one. Pay special attention to font pairing and font selection. You need to set a mood, you need to attract an audience, you need to make sure that we can understand the information you're trying to tell us. Okay, due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And that is it for the week. So feel free to reach out and let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing some more of your work.